You might have heard this claim before. Did you know Pepsi once had the 6th largest navy in the world? It sounds like something your friend read on Reddit, and honestly, it's gone viral enough that people believe it. But like a lot of wild stories, the truth is even crazier. So, how did Pepsi get mixed up with the Soviet Union's military gear? For that, we've got to go way back to 1957. The space race was on, Sputnik had just launched, and the USSR was riding high as the world's most advanced nation. Not wanting to be outdone, Vice President Richard Nixon visited Moscow in 1959 to show off how good Americans had it. One thing he brought along? Pepsi, of course. Nixon even got Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev to taste test some Pepsi. Khrushchev loved it, and just like that, Russia had a new craving. But there was one big challenge. The Soviet ruble wasn't accepted on global markets, and with no US dollars to buy it, how were they going to pay for their fix? In the 70s, Pepsi and the Soviet Union worked out a barter deal. Instead of cash, the USSR paid for Pepsi in vodka. That's right, in exchange for keeping the Soviet people caffeinated, Pepsi was granted exclusive rights to sell Stolichnaya vodka in the US. And it was a hit. By 1980, Stoli was one of America's favorite vodkas. This vodka for Pepsi barter worked well until 1979, when the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan led to an American boycott of Russian products, including Stoli vodka. Despite geopolitical tensions, Pepsi didn't abandon its Soviet business ties. By the late 80s, Pepsi's demand in Russia had outgrown what vodka could cover. So in 1989, they took things to the next level. The Soviet Union handed over 17 submarines, plus a cruiser, a destroyer, and a frigate in exchange for more Pepsi. And here's where the wild Pepsi Navy myth was born. For a short time, Pepsi did technically own a fleet of military ships, and some people say that made them the world's 6th largest navy. But really, they just sold the whole thing for scrap metal. Pepsi wasn't about to sail these subs around or start a naval conquest though. Honestly, that would have been hilarious. Now here's where the story gets murky. Sure, owning 17 submarines sounds huge, but that's nothing compared to the actual global navies of 1991. If we're being real, Pepsi's fleet wouldn't have cracked the top 25 navies in the world back then. The whole 6th largest thing? Total exaggeration. The rest of it? Surprisingly accurate. Pepsi's grand Soviet plan hit a wall when in 1991, the USSR collapsed. Suddenly, those shipyards and the ships Pepsi wanted to build for cash were split across new countries, including Ukraine, which had its own plans for that ship revenue. Pepsi found itself renegotiating deals all over the former Soviet bloc, even expanding into fast food with Pizza Huts. Despite the Cold War hurdles, Pepsi held on to its spot in Russian hearts. Even today, it's still a big player in the Russian market. And in 2004, Russian President Vladimir Putin honored the man who started it all, Donald Kendall, with the Order of Friendship. Pretty fitting for the guy who got Russia to fall in love with American soda. So, did Pepsi really have the world's 6th largest navy? Not exactly, but this story shows how far a cola company went to do business on the world stage. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing facts, and let us know in the comments, what would you do if you suddenly had your own fleet of submarines?